Today I'm going to help you answer the question, should you buy a car with a rebuilt title? This is a beautiful looking 2019 Subaru WRX. Beautiful looking car, it's got quad exhaust pipes, and it was just purchased for about half of what the original price was. He paid $16,000 for this car as it stands. As you can see, it's immaculate inside, and when we turn the key, as you can see, it's only got 15,000 miles on it. But it has a rebuilt title. Even though this car is only 1 year old, it is now on its third owner. Now, rebuilt title is a technical term. It doesn't mean that the car was damaged and then rebuilt and checked out by somebody and sold. It merely means that an insurance company totaled the car because it had so much damage it was more expensive to fix the car than to just total the car and pay the insured person the value of the car. And such damage has to be relatively large. This thing was over 30 grand new. They totaled it. It's a lot of money to pay off. It had to have some kind of serious damage. Now when we open the hood, we can see some obvious parts that were damaged. See relatively poor body work and paint where the metal's dinged, so obviously it was smashed in the front. So let's look under, see what the front looks like from the bottom. They seem to have done decent welding. They put all the panels back. There's nothing leaking. You're always going to get skids on these low things on the plastic, but they seem to have done a decent job with the bodywork. But here's something you need to understand, at least here in the United States. Once a car is totaled by an insurance company and has a rebuilt title, all factory warranty is voided. So even this thing that's 1 year old with 15,000 miles on it, it no longer has any type of factory warranty. If the engine transmission blew up, it's come out of your pocket. When they're totaled, the manufacturer says it's been damaged beyond repair. We don't fix anything free anymore. Now, it is a beautiful car, but the check engine light is on. There it is. And when we start it up, and I go to the intercooler, I can feel a misfire. It's shaking. You can see it. Look how that's shaking. It's vibrating too much. And when you check the exhaust on the back, the misfire seems to be coming more from this side where it burbles more. You can see when I put my hands in there, it's running rich. That is black soot. So let's get out the big scan tool, see what's happening inside. Nothing can hide from the scan tool, and we'll diagnose it. Auto scan. You can't hide from these machines. If you're going to buy a car with the rebuilt title, salvage title, whatever they want to call it, always pay a guy like me to check it out before you buy the vehicle. All right, it's got 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10 problems. Now it's got fancy tires, so the TPM system's probably not even hooked up for the tire pressure, so that we don't care about. But power steering has a fault. You want to see what that is. Got a problem with the power supply relay sending power to the electric power steering. From my experience, that's usually wreck related, from it having been wrecked and repaired. They didn't fix the system right and the power doesn't work right to it. It also has a lost communication with the eyesight system, and that's probably related to the wreck too. The wiring is somewhat mangled. Communication failure, lost communication with the HVAC control module. Modern cars have many different computer modules in them, and they run what's called the bus line, where all the computer information goes. Any minor flaws is going to disrupt communication. Once these things are wrecked, you're generally never going to have everything working perfectly, but I mean, in this case, the AC works. The car doesn't drive that bad. You know, you're not an absolute fanatic about your car, and you are saving 50% on a car that's only got 15,000 miles and is a year old, then you can often live with stuff like that. But let's check the engine code. Here's the engine code. We'll check that out. Trouble code is catalyst efficiency below threshold bank 1. Well, Scotty hasn't lost it. Bank 1 is the passenger side. That's the side I knew was misfiring by feeling it and listening to the exhaust. There are many reasons an engine can misfire. So let's go into the data even further. Now we can see an anomaly here. The long-term fuel trim, it is adding 10% fuel. And it's doing that on bank 1, which is where the catalytic converter is inefficient. Yet, the tip is black and sooty, which means it's too rich. On a normal vehicle that has never been totaled for whatever reason and then resold with a rebuilt title, Generally, that means your engine is running rich. If it's black, the fuel term should be negative. It should be subtracting fuel. But for some reason, this baby is adding fuel to the one that has a problem, and it's rich. It should be making it lean, but it's still too rich, and it's adding fuel. Normally, it will be subtracting fuel. So something's really amiss here. And here's more interesting information. Here it shows the air-fuel correction is minus 1.17%. So here it's subtracting fuel because it sees it's running too rich. Yet the long-term fuel trim, it's adding fuel for bank number 2. Now this is a 4-cylinder engine, but you can see on the cylinder monitors, these are moving around. 707, 698, 707, 704, 705, 690, 690, 694, 712. And that's just the idle. Watch what happens when we rev it up. You can see as we rev it up, they are not perfectly even. It is not firing correctly. The numbers jumble around various figures. This should never be happening on an engine that's only got 15,000 miles and is a year old. But, as I said, this is a rebuild title. There's no saying what actually happened to this thing. It had some serious damage because they're not going to total a car and pay the value out on a car that's, at the time, obviously less than a year old, because this is now the 3rd owner of the car. So let's take it for a spin and see how it runs. Now these are known for being zippy little cars that handle quite well. And so far, hey, it handles great. It's got some zip. We'll take it out in the country for a second. First thing I notice are noises I shouldn't hear. You heard that little noise? That's metal rattling that shouldn't be rattling. Now we'll step on the gas and see what it does. Not bad. If you don't mind that little rattle. And it does handle quite well. Whatever was wrecked, the suspension was fixed correctly. Track's good, no hand on the wheel, goes straight. That's kind of a rough ride, but really, that's what WRXs are. They're for riding around. They're zippy little cars. They corner, they hug, but they're kind of rough riding. That's just normal for these things. I do have to say, all that noise would drive me crazy after a while. So what's my overall perspective on this beautiful looking car? Well, sure, he paid less than half price for it. It's only a year old. It's got 15,000 miles on it. But it is a rebuilt title. Now, if you live in an area like here in Clarksville, Tennessee, they don't do emissions testing. You don't care if it runs as good as this does. But if you live in an area like California, that would make it fail the emissions. There's no saying what it would cost to fix it since it had been totally wrecked, and the electronics are somewhat squirrely on this. I can see that. Now, mechanically, the thing seemed to have been fixed from the wreck perfectly. Suspension seems nice and tight. No big whacks that I looked when I jacked it up. But electronically, yeah, it's a bit off. But if you're a young guy like him, you want a fast little car, pay half price of what it was originally, and you don't mind gambling on a rebuild title, realizing that it has no dealer warranty at all anymore, since it was totaled by an insurance company, hey, you might want to take a gamble on something like this. If you live in Clarksville. After all, the choice is up to you. It's your money. I'm just showing you how you can spend it wisely and how you can analyze a car with a rebuilt title the correct way. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Henry L says, I'm restoring a 78 Pontiac Trans Am. The original 400 needs overhauled. Should I rebuild it or swap it for something newer? You know, that's all up to you. But what do you want? If you're going to make that thing look like new OEM, you want to rebuild the 400. It's worth more money that way. Now, if you just want to drive it, but you think maybe you might sell it, go ahead and put a newer engine in it, but keep the old 400. Because if somebody wants to keep it, you say, I got the original engine, it's sitting in the garage there. You get that too when you buy the vehicle. Don't get rid of it, because that's where the money is if you want to resell it and keep it as an OEM. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.